LA is on fire. It's June 10th, 2025, and like April 29th, 1992, the city was on fire as well. But these are two very different fires. Last time I was here visiting a friend of mine, Rob Sullivan, who lived on Fuller and Hawthorne. It was so crazy for us. That first day when the Rodney King verdict had come out, the police officers were found not guilty. That was very disturbing for every human being that saw the video of Rodney King taking that beating. See, people expected him to do what Donald Trump did when he got shot. You expected him to say, fight, right? But what did Rodney King say? He said, can't we just all get along? And, sometimes people made fun of that. That was serious. And, he took that beating, and the result he got from that was he never wanted to see anyone go through that again, right? So here we are, June 10th, 2025, and what have we learned? We learned that, cops with batons, that's not enough, so let's send in the Marines and the National Guard, right? If that's what's supposed to happen, if those are the rules and that's the way that it goes, then those are the rules and that's the way that it goes. I just haven't seen that happen before. I think the only time I saw it was when the president was going over to that church across from the White House, and they had to remove all of the people that were trying to get in his way of him going to that church. That's the only time I saw that type of reaction, but we obviously got over that as a nation because I didn't think about it again until I saw what was happening in downtown LA. People were protesting, it looked like on the 110. That's inappropriate. If you're gonna protest, there are rules to it, and you want to follow those rules because you want to be effective. I happened to be out in my car on Cinco de Mayo, okay, when there was a party going on at MacArthur Park, and somebody had done something to irritate a police officer, and a police officer began to beat on somebody who was in the news, okay? And a riot happened there. It was Cinco de Mayo, probably 18 years ago, so what's that? 2007, that's when it was. 2007, Cinco de Mayo, look it up. I got pulled over and I got arrested. I got taken into the Glass House, the Parker Center, which is where a lot of this stuff is going on right now. When I was in there, they call it the Glass House. When you go in, it's all these bars and it's all these separate jail cells that hold probably 50 people in each cell. And there's like 6 cells on each block. So there's, on each side, there's 3. And the way that they do it is they put the prisoners in every other cell. So this would hold 300 people per floor. So you'd have 50 in one cell, the next cell would be empty, and then the cell after that would have 50. While you're in that cell with all these people, everyone's been arrested, right? On that day, it was a lot of the homeless people in MacArthur Park. It smelled so bad inside the cell that I couldn't even eat like the bologna sandwich you gave me because I was gonna puke at the thought of it. So when people come together and they come together to protest, right? You gotta think back to Martin Luther King. You gotta think back to things that have happened in the past, and you wanna escape what the fate is of it, and you want to be successful at it. So if you're gonna do a protest, figure out the rules of the protest and then get your people to abide by those rules, okay? Because 2 wrongs don't make a right. And there's a responsibility factor that us as human beings have to have that the government's never gonna have to have. Okay? There's a reason why people have companies. There's a reason why. And it's all a duplication of something that we already have. But the government they're there to not have feelings, right? And there's laws and there's rules, and all of us have to abide by them. Because if you want to be an American, then you got to be an American. And the reason we follow the rules is because that's a code of respect. And that's how we respect each other. And sometimes we learn this the hard way. You know, growing up in the streets of Boston, the things I'm saying, I learned from others. I learned from doing them wrong. You know, I lived in such a densely populated area that I was able to meet hundreds of kids growing up. So I feel like I learned right from wrong a lot of the times from doing wrong, and then learning how that feels afterward. You know, being in the middle of a family, having 4 brothers, 2 sisters, 2 older brothers, 2 younger brothers. There's a real equilibrium to the family chain of life, and we are all part of that. We're all on a vine like grapes, right? And we all have to do what we can to get along. So when I see the fighting, I see people out there just going at it and ripping each other up and, you know, doing the nastiest things and burning an American flag. Where's the safety in that? Where's the brotherhood in that? Already. Make sure you subscribe now and hit that red button.